Good evening, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Let's get started right now. First up, patterns emerge among mass shooting suspect. Let's take a listen to that video from CBS News.
And as the nation deals with yet another mass shooting, it's worth noting the similarities between the Highland Park suspect and other high-profile shooting suspects. CBS's Catherine Herridge reports tonight on the warning signs that may have been missed.
New evidence suggests that as early as 2019, the suspect was flagged for an attempted suicide as well as threats of physical violence. While 16 knives were confiscated, local investigators ran into blocks.
There were no complaints that were signed by any of the victims.
The suspects now removed online videos, also glorified mass shootings for digital followers.
How would you characterize the online content?
Ultra-violent.
Former FBI and ATF investigator Scott Sweeto told CBS News there's a digital tsunami coming at investigators.
It's one of the biggest challenges is how do you go through that crushing volume of information and tease out the stuff in there that might interdict the next mass shooter.
19 states and the District of Columbia have so-called red flag laws that allow petitions for the temporary removal of firearms from individuals who may be a danger to themselves or others.
But no matter how good the law is and how much money the federal government pumps into it, if people will not pick up the phone or get on a keyboard and tell law enforcement about what they saw, the red flags are largely useless.
While there's no hard and fast rule, Sweeto said a number of indicators can be concerning. Loners who idealize violence, especially recent mass shootings, and arm themselves.
When you feel the hair stand up in the back of your neck, I think you really need to take that step and notify law enforcement, notify someone in authority so that they can decide what needs to be done next.
These so-called lone wolf attacks can be among the hardest to disrupt because suspects can cross the threshold from hateful online speech to violence very quickly, and that's why timely tips to local law enforcement can be so vital. Adriana.
And law enforcement is still asking for those tips here. Catherine Herridge, thank you so much.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Death toll rises in July for parade mass shooting. Let's take a listen to that video from CBS News.
We begin tonight here in Highland Park, Illinois, and we have breaking news. Authorities just announced 7 counts of first-degree murder against a 21-year-old suspected of shooting dozens here at a 4th of July parade in this suburb of Chicago. Tonight, we are learning the names of 6 of the victims that were killed, and just today, a 7th died from their wounds. The oldest, 88. The 2 youngest victims, parents of a young boy. They were together at the parade. And now that child is parentless. The investigation here is just getting started, but we are learning new details tonight, including the suspect's previous encounters with police. And the gun violence crisis isn't unique to Highland Park. In the 30 hours since the shooting here, there have been an additional 6 mass shootings across America, from Oakland, California to Queens, New York. We have a lot of news to get to tonight, and CBS's Chris Van Cleef is here. Chris, good evening. What can you tell us about the latest with the investigation?
Well, Adriana, police are telling us that the suspect actually legally owned 5 firearms. Some were found in his home. One was found in the vehicle that he was driving at the time he was arrested. And while he is talking to police, there remain a lot of unanswered questions. Tonight, 21-year-old Robert Bobby Cremo III is facing 7 counts of first-degree murder. Police say he sprayed more than 70 rounds down upon hundreds of people watching Highland Park's 4th of July parade. 7 were killed, 38 others were wounded, including at least 4 children. This is the suspect after the shooting, wearing what appears to be women's clothing as a disguise to make his getaway.
We do believe Cremo pre-planned this attack for several weeks. He brought a high-powered rifle to this parade. He accessed the roof of a business via a fire escape ladder and began opening fire.
Police say the shooter dumped that gun. It was similar to an AR-15. Officers caught Cremo more than 8 hours after the massacre just 5 miles away. In the car, another rifle. Investigators spent today collecting evidence and clearing leftover items along the parade route. Lizzie Kennedy came back to the scene today. This is the Kennedy family Monday being escorted to safety by heavily armed FBI agents.
My daughter is only 8 and she was screaming, "Please, Mommy, I don't want to die." Sorry. She screamed, "Please, Mommy, I don't want to die." And I'm like, "You're not going to die. We have to go. We have to run."
It was a gruesome scene.
Dr. Lauren Schechter escaped the gunfire and went back to help.
I'm a surgeon. I've worked in trauma. The wounds we saw were military level wounds. It wasn't a typical civilian handgun wound that you'd see come into the emergency room. These were devastating injuries.
You essentially became a battlefield medic.
Well, we did what we could do with what we had.
While the suspect's motive remains a mystery, police are investigating his disturbing online history. It certainly seems like there were a lot of warning signs. Did people see those warning signs? Were they missed? Did this slip through the cracks?
You know, unfortunately, I think there are a lot of people who use social media as a way to gain attention. I'd like to focus on the fact, frankly, that this was a gun that was apparently obtained legally, and we need to re-examine our laws.
Primo's uncle, Paul, says he saw no warning signs.
There's no indication that I've seen at all that would lead up to this. I am so sorry, and from the bottom of my heart, and I'm very heartbroken.
And Chris is back here with us. Chris, how did police find him, and what was he doing for the 8 hours when he was on the run?
Well, the suspect left the gun behind. That allowed the ATF and others to do a rapid gun trace to help identify where the gun came from. At the same time, the FBI and other investigators were piecing together a video timeline. That gave them an idea of who they were looking for, the vehicle they were looking for. The suspect went to his mother's house nearby and then drove to neighboring Wisconsin and back into Illinois when he was spotted by police, pulled over, and eventually arrested.
Chris Van Cleve, thank you so much.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. The July 4th weekend marked by gun violence. Let's take a listen to that video.
We want to end tonight back here in Highland Park, Illinois. 4th of July weekend is meant to be one of celebration, but in a matter of seconds, it became a weekend of chaos and carnage. Gun violence has become as much an American tradition as the parades and fireworks that celebrate our country's birthday. And this crisis doesn't stop at mass shootings. It's a crisis on our streets. And those disproportionately impacted are Black Americans, who are 14 times more likely to be wounded by gunfire than white Americans. About 30 miles from here in the city of Chicago, at least 8 people were killed and 68 wounded by gunfire over the weekend. In Philadelphia, 2 officers were shot while on duty at that city's 4th of July celebration. And in America's biggest city, New York, 84 people were shot. For many, the holiday weekend when we celebrate our freedoms, our independence, is now when families will forever mourn a loved one.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Biden awards Medal of Honor to 4 Vietnam War veterans. Let's take a listen to that video.
President Biden awarded the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest honor for valor, to 4 men for their service in the Vietnam War. CBS's David Martin reports.
The Vietnam War seems long ago and far away, but it was front and center at the White House today.
We're upgrading the awards of 4 soldiers who performed acts of incredible heroism during the Vietnam conflict.
Retired Green Beret John Duffy was the lone American fighting alongside badly outnumbered South Vietnamese troops.
We were given orders to fight to the death.
He kept the North Vietnamese at bay, calling in American airstrikes, despite being wounded.
They wanted to medically evacuate me, but I refused because I was the only American up there. They could not have held without American air.
Edward Kaneshiro didn't make it back from Vietnam, so his son John received the medal for actions in the face of an enemy ambush.
He ordered his men to take cover, and then he advanced alone toward the enemy position, armed with 6 grenades and his M16.
Dennis Fujii went into Laos to rescue South Vietnamese troops. He summed up 17 hours of combat with one of the great understatements of the war.
I like my job. I like to help other people who need help out there.
Dwight Birdwell emerged from this tank wounded but alive to fight off a Viet Cong attack.
He was ordered to load onto the medevac helicopter. He complied. This I find amazing, only to crawl right back off the other side and to keep on fighting.
That's what it takes to earn the nation's highest honor.
I didn't want to die, but I wanted to do my job, and that was more important. If I didn't do this, everybody was going to perish.
David Martin, CBS News, The Pentagon.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And here is a look at the weather for tonight across the United States. In Boston, 68 degrees. New York City, 74 degrees. Washington, D.C., 76 degrees. Atlanta, 74 degrees. Jacksonville, 77 degrees. Tampa, 78 degrees. And Miami, 81 degrees. Dallas, 80 degrees. Phoenix, 82 degrees. Los Angeles, 64 degrees. Las Vegas, 77 degrees. And San Francisco, 58 degrees. That is a look at the weather across the United States for this Tuesday night. And thank you for watching this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. Have a great evening. Good night. Goodbye.